Welcome back. Glory, glory, England at the moment. Let's just keep it going while it lasts. I tell you what, I've changed my mind. I think we're going to go all the way to the final. I'm sure that's a kiss of death if ever you've heard one. I'm sorry about that, but I do. I'm not saying we're going to win it, but it's glory, glory, South Yorkshire and Sheffield football at the moment. Kyle Walker, Harry Maguire. Don't forget Gary Cahill.
John Stones, squad. Barnsley boy as well.
Stones and
Vardy,
Jamie Vardy. You're playing Stocksbridge tomorrow.
Yep, first team's first game tomorrow night. So it's started 2 good seasons there the last 2 years. That's the
tradition, isn't it?
Yeah. So and it's good to have a local game to start. I think
it's a superb spot.
Big crowded
Friday evening. Yeah.
Isn't it? We play our 23s games there, and we always get well looked after, and they're good people up there.
Absolutely. We were talking, James is joining us. He's going to round up the area because there's a bit going on. There's a bit of local cricket going on. We'll talk about Sheffield Wednesday's sort of transfer.
Talk about the pre-seasons as well, because I know a lot of fans are kind of, obviously Blades today made that big announcement for a big game against Inter Milan on the 24th of July at Bramall Lane. Fantastic. Cheap tickets as well. I think they'll be gone soon. So so we'll talk about some of that as well, because Wednesday we've got some good pre-season games as well as United. So
indeed. Travis Binnion, the head of Sheffield United's academy. That's a plum to pick, isn't it? Inter Milan at Bramall Lane.
It's a great fixture.
Prestige.
It's a great fixture, and the club's been working relatively closely with Inter Milan on different levels and
transfer deals, etc.
Steady.
We'll have a card in.
The women's side of the game, that we're obviously evolving with that, and really that's become an integral part of the club. And I think Inter Milan are at the same part with their women. So I think it started at the female level, then we've had some discussions at academy level, and now the first team are playing, which is great. Really, it's a great feather in our cap.
I know when we had Carla in a few weeks ago, she was saying that to be fair, Chris is really good with them. Do you have much to do with them, the academy and the women, or will you?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of interaction between the staff. Obviously, we're based in the same building. Mick Wadsworth is like in an advisory role with the women, and obviously he's a very experienced former league manager, coach, youth developer. So he's like in there for Carla, to help Carla, and obviously he's coaching with the women as well. And then there's crossover in other departments, so performance and medical side of things. So it's a good addition to obviously.
It's absolutely fantastic.
It makes us I don't want to say a proper club, because we're a very good club, but in terms of our fan base and young girls growing up, they can see now that there's a route to play for Sheffield United, and so you've got the academy set up, the women, the men, the community programme. It's a whole package.
There's not only a route to play for Sheffield United, there's a route to play for England, possibly, as Harry and Kyle are proving at the moment, which is just terrific. Just tell us about Kyle then, because you were talking before the break. We were talking about the progression of Harry Maguire, who was always a good footballer technically, but they had to build defensive skills into this big group.
Exactly.
But Kyle, one of the most exciting Bramall Lane appearances I've ever seen was against Preston in a playoff game. When he came there as right back. Just electric.
So with Kyle, obviously I didn't work with him coaching. He's not that much younger than me. But when I was a young pro, he would have been just coming to the building as an apprentice. So we all knew of his potential. And the thing with Kyle is, I think it's a real feather for our programme. Kyle was a real late developer. So whereas Harry was an early developer physically, Kyle was a real late developer, and up to 17, 18, what the athlete you see now, he wasn't like that. He was a good footballer, he played in multiple positions, and testament to Ron and Foggy and Scott Sellers, they really waited for Kyle Walker, because you wouldn't believe that him as a 70-year-old to what you see now, this athletic monster, the quickest player in the side, arguably. So, and I know you're going to come on to David Brooks, but a strength of our programme is seeing what is beneath the surface. I think with Harry, it was there for all to see early doors, whereas with Kyle and Brooksy, that it wasn't so evident. You could see they had strengths, but they had massive areas.
Didn't he? David Brooks came to you at 17 from Manchester City.
Yeah.
And you obviously saw something to work in. Very frail.
Yeah, very frail.
And still is, really.
Yeah.
But he's just pulled in a heavyweight fee, you know, 12 to 15 million pounds allegedly. There was a little bit of arguing on social media about this, even though it had been well flagged up and signposted that this was a possibility always this summer, that he would go. You know, in an ideal world, I mean, I suppose there's a limit to what I can ask you on this because you're head of the academy, you're not in charge of transfers or whatever. But I suppose you wouldn't be human if, in an ideal world, you wouldn't have wished to see this kid that you'd worked on developing stay.
Yeah, well, it's the same with Kyle and Harry, isn't it? If we're in the Premier League and we're evolving in the Premier League, then we'll always be a selling club because every team in the country is a selling club. I think Man United and Man City are selling clubs to Real Madrid, if I'm honest. So anyone who says they're not a selling club, there's probably only 1 or 2 clubs in the world that can genuinely...
Well, Ronaldo went from Manchester United.
That can genuinely say we're not a selling club. I think it's Real Madrid. That's it, because everyone seems to want to end up there, even if they're a massive club in Germany or England. So, in terms of the Brooksy deal, I think it's good for all parties. It was a very good fee. The lad wants to play in the Premier League. Bournemouth have got a very exciting player. And our fans and Chris and his staff and all of us want to see us back in the Premier League. So if that fee can help give Chris the 2, 3 or 4 players that he feels can get us into the playoffs and beyond, then we're a business, aren't we?
Exactly, yeah. And it's just only by getting to the Premier League that you can keep these players for longer. Even if you can't keep them forever, you could keep them for longer, can't you?
Ideally, we want to see us in the Premier League keeping our graduates for longer and helping and seeing them grow with us. But until we get in the Premier League, then finance will always dictate what happens. And even if we're in the Premier League, if Manchester City want your players and they're willing to pay what the club seems is right, then we'll sell players in the Premier League. But you'll just get more. But in terms of the David Brooks deal, it's a really, on the face of it, a really good fee.
Played 30 games. You know, he's 21 years old, and you know, I know that's 21 years old. You don't think of being that young, but it is, isn't it? It is.
And we talked about it before coming on air that debuts are getting later now. They're getting later, and the next big challenge for us is, historically, kids have got in the first team and been sold relatively quickly because they've been an asset and of value to the club, or they've got in the first team and stayed in the first team for quite a bit longer, maybe your Jagielkas and your Tongs. Whereas now, because debuts are getting later, you've got more of a gap in their development that is absolutely critical that you need to fill, and loans are huge for that.
I mean, the reputation of your academy is surely going to encourage the clubs at League One and League Two level to think, we need a loan player in X position, we can rely on...
And it's good for both parties then, isn't it? Yeah.
So, and I think we're getting back to that sort of, those realms now. So Cal Norton went to Gretna, Kyle Walker went to Northampton, Matthew Lowton went to Ferencváros, and so, but for a long period of time now, our kids have got in the first team, possibly from Harry onwards, Harry, Longy, Brooksy, they've got in there and then got sold. Dominic went on loan up to Chris at Northampton, but Aaron Ramsdale got in and got sold. So I think we're getting back to now, we've got a real good batch of prospects, but they're all of that 17, 18, possibly 19 sort of year-old bracket. And if you look at Dominic and Brooksy and Aaron, they were all 19, 20, 21 before they either broke in or they got sold. So we've got to now be really creative and see the loans market and place the lads with Chris's and Paul Mitchell and Alan Neil's help to get them the best loans we can, so they're in better shape in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months to come back and challenge the established first team players. Because it is possible, and Chris has said that in the last week. He wants to see more players break through, but they've got to be good enough. And
you can't also overlook the value of the academy as a business. I know that you don't look at it from that perspective because you're just working with.
No, we do.
You do.
We do.
You do.
Our job is twofold. It's to produce players for the first team, and it's to create revenue as well.
Right.
Any academy that says they don't do that, what are they doing?
Yeah.
We're part of the business. We cost the club a significant investment each year. We have, by the way, absolutely returned on that investment for the last 20 years. We've washed our face considerably, but a lot of academies haven't. So I would beg the question, what is the point? If you're not producing players for your first team or bringing revenue in or doing both, then what are you doing?
And it's a sustaining factor for the football club because football clubs generally don't run at a profit, do they?
No.
So you've got to get a profit from somewhere. I mean, it's been very valuable. I suppose if anybody sat down and worked out the fees that have been gleaned.
I mean, I'm not privy to numbers on every deal and sell-ons and all that, but you have to be talking in excess of 40 million. Comfortably in excess of 40 million over the last 15, 16 years.
I think it's 16, isn't it? The academy started in 2002.
So it's 16 years. And obviously a lot of work went into getting that status. But I think people sometimes overlook what went on before that, because there's a lot of good players out of our system in the early 90s that came out. And academy is a popular word, but when the old centre of excellence and that, they still produce players. It's just there's more money in it now, and the investment from the FA and from clubs is greater, so there's should be more scrutiny on what's coming out of the other end.
Well, we'll talk to you in a minute about a couple of names cropped up this week for foreign players that you've recruited to the academy. But we'll go to James first of all. Just he usually has an old-fashioned sheet of paper.
I've gone modern on the folks. So Wednesday we were talking about those pre-season friendlies. They've announced 3 pre-season friendlies so far. It's Lincoln City, Mansfield Town, and they've got Villarreal as well. All sort of in the next few weeks as well. And of course we'll touch on that again. So 18-time Serie A champions Inter Milan are going to come to Bramall Lane, 24th of July, 7:30 kick-off. Incredible stuff. The pricing's pretty good as well. It's £12 for adults, £7 for concessions, £5 juniors. Not bad at all, is it? That good value to come and watch the Blades, and of course, some of the players as well coming over as well. Mario Icardi and people like that. Good players, indeed. And of course, they've got Stocksbridge tomorrow night. Get yourself up there if you want to see the Blades run out for the first time in the new kit. A couple of new additions as well to the squad. Hey, perfect, great spot.
Lovely spot.
With a couple of beers as well, maybe, if you're over 18. Also...
He's not.
None of your lads should be there.
You're not happy,
another one as well, Sheffield Wednesday, are expected to be selling Jack Hunt as well to Bristol City for just over £1.5 million. So, I know...
Came out of the blue, that, really,
absolutely
unexpectedly, but I think it's a reality that... certainly, if they're to keep the, I don't think any Sheffield Wednesday fan wants to see a Forest area or a Bannon go, and ideally you'd want to see just players on the fringe go, but it's only the players, the good players that attract offers, and if you're going to sell somebody, you need to balance it. Well, Jack Hunt, albeit a good player, there are probably other players in that position. Lose a bit of pace, though, that concerns me. But I just hope that they can keep body and soul together, the status quo, because if they do manage to keep the better players, I still think they can have a very good season.
Absolutely.
But without disrupting it too much.
Absolutely. Well, a little bit of local sports news as well to bring you. So, sprinter Beth Dobbin, you might remember last week it was sort of all over the national press, was the British Athletics Championships in Birmingham. Well, she's from Sprotborough. is Beth Dobbin, and she actually won the 200 metres title and a new British record of 22.59 seconds. No mean feat. Wow. So well done. Good to see some local talent coming through as well. And also I'll just bring something up that's completely unrelated. It's from many years ago, but I found something online earlier, Travis, and it was a Blade Reserves team sheet against Hartlepool 2007, and you were playing alongside Kyle Norton. Paul Gerrard was in goal, Ian Ross, Nicky Law, Lee Hendry, Jeff Horsfield. Not bad, that is it? Not bad. What was that like, growing up and playing with all those?
I think it's quite accurate to say I had the least distinguished career from that list of names.
Hey, some good names on there. But what was it like playing with those boys? Because it's different now, isn't it? I know in the 23s, you've got how many overage players can you have? Is it 3? Is it?
I think 23s football is much derided across the first team academy system, but for us it serves a great purpose. We're always very young within that, so we know that we're playing against older players, so we get to stretch our kids. And I don't really care what other clubs think of it or don't think of it. We get what we need to out of it, and then once it's served that purpose, then they either play for Chris or they go out on loan.
Because sometimes that criticism, isn't there, where some of the old guard, shall we say, the players who've played perhaps in the 90s, and they're saying, well, it's so different now. Because they're saying, when I was 17, I was playing against all the lads.
Yeah, no, I understand that. It's not ideal. In an ideal world, you would have each club putting out 3 or 4 senior pros that are either back end of their career or returning from injury or have not played in the first team for a couple of weeks, and you'd get those players having an effect on your younger players. But that doesn't happen now, so you have to get your head around that doesn't happen, and find the best way for your players, and then if they're not in Chris's plans immediately, then we have to find the next stage in their development, which is more times than not alone or training with the first team on a more regular basis and a plan in place to get them where they need to quicker.
Your career path took you abroad. This is where the bit of Swedish that we promised. He's not going to talk Swedish, but
did you learn any, mate?
He went to Finland.
Bad words.
To IFK Mariehamn.
Yes.
Is that right? Is I pronounced that right? Yeah. And you said that was a Swedish-speaking club.
Yes. So it was in the Åland Islands. They played in the Finnish Premier Division, but the language was Swedish. I don't think the rest of Finland looked upon them
as part of...
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think they saw themselves as relatively independent, but it was a good experience. I mean, I was struggling at the time. I played 9 games in the season. I knew that I was up against continuing to play. I had 2 ops at the end of that season, so it was a good experience in terms of playing abroad. It's something that English players don't generally do well, and it's an area we're looking at. How can we book that trend? I know some high-profile players have gone to play in Germany recently. Your Jadon Sancho's, your Lookmans, your people like that. So it's an area that English players can definitely look to.
Yes, broaden their experience. But on the other side of the coin, I read this week that you're bringing a couple of lads from abroad to your academy, aren't you?
Yeah, so that is an example of us signing. We haven't historically signed many foreign players at youth level. We've got a massive pride in sort of dominating our local footprint and being as local as we can. But we are a business, and if certain positions we can't fill at the necessary quality, then we'd be fools not to look further afield. And we signed a German keeper, Jordan Amissa, in the last week. He's been at Dortmund and Schalke. He is a giant of a boy, and one we're very excited about. He'll challenge Marcus Dewhurst, who played for England this summer under 17, so they're going to have a real battle to see who can come out on top and hopefully challenge Chris. And we signed a French boy, Nixon Gomez, left centre half, who has a lot of tools that we like and we feel we can really work with.
Excellent. Next season, it's not your job to pick the Sheffield United team, but do you have hopes that somebody that hasn't been given a lot of publicity, I've seen a few names mentioned, will play first team football next season?
Yeah,
I
think you're always hoping that they can break through. But obviously the likes of Regan Slater, Reece Norrington-Davis, they train with the first team full time now. Chris and Alan have took them with them, and they're progressing nicely. Tyler Smith, Harvey Gilmore, Jordan Doherty have almost trained every day in pre-season, so there's always that opportunity to train, and there's a plan in place that you get regular feedback, whereabouts are they at, they need a loan, or keep them with us, or yeah, he needs X, Y, Z, so there's that dialogue all the time. And listen, Chris thinks, and I think we've got some players that will play for our first team in the future. It's down to the players how quickly that happens, and I'm not going to say so-and-so is going to play or so-and-so is going to play. They've got to be good enough, and if they're not in it, it's because they're not good enough, and they've got to go and get better.
I mean, classic was Brooks, wasn't it, last year? I don't want to go back to him again, but this time last year, he was going to go out on loan, and then obviously...
Chesterfield, yes, it's a sore point.
Yeah, for a Chesterfield fan in Allen, yeah, exactly. Yeah, kept you up.
He would.
But then obviously, you know, he did really well, and that was kind of all off his own bat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And next thing, you know...
Well, that was smart on our behalf, wasn't it, in terms of there was a loan lined up, I think. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn there.
No.
He did really well in the Toulon tournament for England, got player of the tournament, and then Chris and I thought, well, no, he stays with us. He's progressed, and the rest is history, really.
Right, England, Sweden, 3 o'clock Saturday. How are you calling that one?
England to win on penalties. Can you believe I've said that?
I can't believe
Can you believe
what's
it?
going on.
Funnily enough, we had the same conversation while waiting for you to come in. And that's my feeling as well. I think now we've broken our duck, took the monkey off our back, to use another phrase. I think we'll be super confident about penalties. I
think we have the players to win the game in normal time, but we can't get ahead of ourselves. The Swedes will be looking at us going, we can get in the semi-final here. I think that's the refreshing thing. We know where we're at.
They're a strong unit.
Yeah,
very strong unit.
I heard earlier that they obviously beat Germany. Topped the German group. Yeah. But they beat Italy in the playoff. They beat Holland in the group, in the qualifying group. Yeah. So
they're no mugs, are they?
No, and they know what they are. And I think that's a refreshing thing about England. We know what we are. Gareth Southgate knows what, and the players know where they're at, and we'll maximise what we are. So it will be. I don't see there being a lot in the game.
And the whole mood of the country has changed. You know, in the build-up to the World Cup, there's a lot of good PR going on behind the scenes with the media, and the whole country seems to have closed ranks together. It's been a success, whatever happens now, isn't it?
Yeah,
for England?
I think so. Yeah, when you get to this stage, you want to go further, and we're a proud footballing nation, aren't we? We haven't always fulfilled our potential, and sometimes I think we've thought we're better than what we are. But I think there's a real reality of where we're at now. We've got some good young players. The academy system is producing good players. You only got to look at the youth internationals, World Cup winners last year, 19s World Cup winners, Toulon winners back-to-back, 17s World Cup winners.
There's a progression.
We are producing good players, and I say we because there's a lot of good programmes out there. Yeah. And Gareth Southgate was the 21s coach, so I think we had foreign managers, we had big-name managers, we went in-house, and it's working. And long may it continue.
Two different things, isn't it?
It is.
Two different jobs, a national coach and a club manager, isn't it? It's completely different.
Whatever happens, Gareth Southgate will have everybody's support to continue as England manager, and that's a big factor as well after all the upheaval.
How many England managers say that?
It's all right. No, almost no England managers. Well, that's our time nearly gone, and it's been absolutely a really fascinating chat, Travis. Travis Binnion, Sheffield United's Academy Chief. You can catch it if you missed it. I do recommend it. It's repeated again at 11 o'clock. It'll be on my YouTube channel very shortly, in about an hour to an hour and a half. Meantime, thank you so much, Travis.
No, thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, James.
Cheers,
see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.